We are live. We are live. Welcome to College Football's Peek Around the Corner with your host, Greg Flugar. We cover everything in college football. And I mean everything in college football because we love everything in college football. And if you do as well, please subscribe to our channel. Smash the like button if you like our content. Share the video with your family and your friends if you want to support this college football's rebel outpost with a donation. Hit the $sign where you make a comment, and I'll get you a super chat as quick as I possibly can. Welcome, everybody. And I mean everybody. I'm talking about the West Virginia coaching search. I'm talking about the North Carolina coaching search. Everybody involved. Welcome into the studio that sits on the corner of Keith Jackson Parkway and Kurt Gowdy Avenue. Do not be afraid. Do not be afraid to be a legend with your comments in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. The portal is hot. 4637 Warrior. Absolutely. And we're going to start the show by talking about the portal. We're going to be talking about everything. And then we're going to hit the West Virginia, North Carolina situation. The latest news. Now, keep your head on a swivel. Keep your head on a swivel. Give me updates if you see them reported. we started the show a little bit later than usual because I was anticipating something to pop. Chief fan, bring Rich Rod home. If you look at the title screen of our show tonight, Rich Rodriguez returned. From everything that we are being told here at Peek Around the Corner, Jeff Munkin, Rich Rodriguez, Anthony Beck, those are the names. Annie Koltanicki, our number 2 on the hot board. Since moments after Neil Brown was fired, it was number 1, Rich Rodriguez, number 2, and Andy Koltanicki. Now you might say, well, great. That means there's a clear pathway to Rich Rodriguez. Maybe it happens tonight. Maybe there's an airplane on the way. As I think it was Chief Fan who gave me, we'll show that picture, an airplane coming from Birmingham, Alabama to Morgantown. There's rumors. There's rumors flying all over the place. The title of the show is Rumors Flying, quotes, all around Morgantown. There's rumors that Pat McAfee is supposed to go somewhere else, like he's like the group College Game Day panel is supposed to go somewhere, but Pat McAfee is staying behind because he might be going to Morgantown tomorrow, the next day, something like that. I did read. I'm on top of that rock and rant. We're going to be going through the North Carolina situation. Now, North Carolina, it is what it is. I mean, it's been that way for a while. We talked about it 2 years ago. We talked about it last year. Kevin Gusowich basically was booted out of his job because of the Board of Regents. Bubba Cunningham was part of the Kevin Gusowich faction. Lee Roberts has taken the approach to support Bubba Cunningham. But there's still that split. I mean, this is the year of Bubba. If he survives. And as long as he's got the chancellor in his corner, I think he will. And remember, Pryor, the chair of the Board of Regents, he's the guy who said it. WRAL, Brian Murphy reported months ago. Other people did as well. Pryor was the guy who wanted to take a blowtorch to go to the ACC headquarters and take a blowtorch. He wanted North Carolina to go into the Holy Smokes Theater and stand on the stage with Clemson and Florida State. But North Carolina can't do that. They can't legally do that because they need the Board of Governors on board. And we talked about it, right? In North Carolina, we've described UNC Chapel Hill in this manner, right? If you have a nail up on the wall, you take one hammer, you hammer that nail into the wall. Now, take that one nail, put it back in the wall, put it back up on the wall, and take 15 hammers and swing those 15 hammers and try to hammer the nail into the wall. That's North Carolina. They've got 15 different hammers. They can't hammer a nail into the wall. This is how we describe UNC. And some of it's their fault. Some of it's just the state of North Carolina's fault. Some of it's the Board of Governors taking a lot of their power. It's a complete mess. We talked about Rock and Rant. We talked about how Miami was in the quagmire, but because of their former president. North Carolina is in a complete mess because of how they are structured. And some personalities, like the chairman of the Board of Regents. Let me swing back to West Virginia. We're going to go back to North Carolina. We've got a lot to talk about. Lots to talk about. West Virginia. The plane just landed in West Virginia. Okay. Let me show you the plane. Let me show you the plane here. Let me show you the plane. Let's see here. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. From Birmingham, Alabama to North Central West Virginia, Clarksburg, Virginia. This is the plane. Thank you, Chief. I appreciate it. Chef, excuse me. Hold on here. This is the plane. Was it carrying Rich Rodriguez? I have no idea. But write that number down, EJA390. But I really have no idea. But let me say this. We're gonna get to all this. Chief Fan, thank you. Just let me say this. There was 2 lanes, West Virginia. 2 lanes. 1 lane when it comes to the coaching search. 1 lane was dominated, was pushed forward by the boosters. The other lane was Andy Koltonicki's lane. The lane of administrators, of people giving West Virginia the advice, right? Andy Koltonicki is incredibly respected. So, Andy Koltonicki not being in the running anymore, and it sounds like that is the case, he just gets replaced by somebody else, like a Jeff Munkin or Anthony Becht. That does not mean that Rich Rodriguez has a clear pathway. We still have Rich Rodriguez as number 1. But obviously this is Renz Baker's decision. We're going to get back to it. There's more to talk about. West Virginia, North Carolina. Mike Smith wanted Koltonicki. A lot of people did, for good reason. For very good reason. Andy wanted to stay at Penn State to finish the playoff run, and West Virginia wasn't willing to wait. I don't know about the second part of that. The first part of it, wanted to finish off Penn State's run, is correct, as we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. I don't know the other part of it. So, Big Ears Bowl doesn't want the Munkin and Becht part of it. Okay, let's, Jeremy Nork, Penn State's OC, Andy Koltonicki staying at Penn State, not Morgantown. Big win for the Nittany Lions. I'm a West Virginia fan, and I want Anthony Becht and his son Rocco Becht to transfer here. The governor is pushing for Rich Rod. the money is pushing for Rich Rod. The money. And it's important. It's an important lane to be number one at. It doesn't mean you're going to win the race, but it does mean you have a chance. It does mean you have a chance. Rich Rodriguez return? Are we going to find out either way before this live show is over? I got a feeling. Look, the portal started today. It opened up today for everybody. Not just the graduate students, not just the student athlete, the football players that had their coach leave in the last 30 days. It's opened up for everybody. It's important to have your head coach in line. Let's go through the stories. We're not going to do the roll call. We've got a lot to get through. Go Black 45. Greg, is the potential deal scheduling between SEC and the Big Ten in danger due to the strength of schedule uproar from the SEC? No. And let's start with that, by the way. Let's start with that. Go Black 45. Here's the thing, people. This is from Wasserman, Ari Wasserman. Here's the thing, people, like the athletic director of Alabama aren't considering strength of schedule does matter. As I've said here at Peek Around the Corner, one of many things that matter. Teams who play schedules like the one Alabama played are afforded more margin of error during the process. Had Alabama played in the ACC with the same results, it wouldn't have even sniffed the 13-team field. Teams from the SEC get more benefit of the doubt in ranking week in, week out because the committee respects their paths are harder. There's a reason the Buckeyes, a team from a tough conference and plenty of cachet, fell less spots after losing to Michigan than Miami did after losing to Syracuse. It played a tough schedule. It had 2 top 10 wins. Quality wins and strength of schedule help you overcome bad losses. All of that is true. But these teams are hurt less than others by shocking losses. But there's a limit. There's a limit. There's a limit to the strength of schedule argument. And wins. Alabama lost one too many games, especially because 2 of their 3 losses came to bad teams. Now, I will not describe them as bad teams, but when you are combined 36.5-point favorites in both of those games combined, and you lose both of them, and you lost one of those games by 21 points and didn't score a touchdown, that has nothing to do with the strength of schedule. It had nothing to do with out-of-conference scheduling. It had nothing to do with any of it. You know what had something to do with it? Because Alabama was terrible against Oklahoma. And 3/4 of that Vanderbilt game. And they have a 3rd loss. Scheduling is cyclical. There will be years Alabama draws the Indiana, the Texas-like schedule. With these mega conferences, there'll be years teams get good draws and bad draws. Alabama got a hard draw this year and still beat Georgia. But it isn't in the playoffs because it wasn't sharp enough to avoid losing to Vanderbilt and Oklahoma. Alabama went 9-3. It had a bad year. These are the consequences. It happens. Strength of schedule doesn't matter. Ask Miami how they feel about that. It's the strength of schedule of Miami that kept them out. It's the strength of schedule of Indiana that almost kept them out. If they had a loss, if Indiana would have lost to a 6-6 team, they're gone. They're gone. They're gone. BYU lost to 5-7 Kansas. That's their second loss. They didn't get to the Big 12 championship game. They almost made it, but they didn't. Strength of schedule matters. Strength of schedule matters. But there's a limit. There is a limit to that well that you only can go to so many times. And then you talk about SMU. SMU, though, they don't have any top 25 wins. Well, a good and decent win doesn't stop at the magical number of 25. You beat a Louisville, you beat a Pittsburgh, you beat a Duke. Those in this season are decent wins. And then SMU did not have any of those bad losses throughout this season. Going 11-1 is hard. Going undefeated in a Power 4 conference is hard. Winning is hard. Ask Alabama. They lost to Oklahoma 24-3 and lost to Vanderbilt. So strength of schedule. So going back to Go Black 45, I appreciate the question. The SEC can do whatever they want. They can, with that non-conference scheduling, they can have 2 FCS teams. As far as I don't do whatever you want. Big Ten does whatever they want. The ACC does whatever they want. The Big 12 does whatever they. If the Big 12 wants to go to 8 conference games, go for it. You might get paid a little less. Okay. Then you're not going to have the strength of schedule argument. Right? The strength of schedule does matter. It does. It does. And it benefits the teams. It gives them a wider margin of error. But that wider margin of error doesn't go from Piscataway, Rutgers, all the way to the Coliseum in Los Angeles. The margin of error isn't, you're automatically in. If Alabama, if their 3 losses would have been 2 of them to the top of the conference and 1 of them the middle of the conference, they'd be in. But it wasn't. That wasn't their losses. It wasn't their losses. Anyway, that is my opinion on it, and I think Wasserman got it right. And look, and another thing here, the argument of SMU, BYU, South Carolina, Alabama, and Ole Miss is in Miami. It is by the very thin margins. Very thin. It's close, baby. It's close. It's close. It's a razor edge type of situation here. But games matter. Games matter. Wins and loss matter. I said this on X earlier today. A lot of the same people who said that Florida State 13-0 should not go to the playoffs because they lost their starting quarterback. Because they're projected to lose in the playoffs. Projected to lose. They were those 13 games didn't matter. They supported Alabama, rejected Florida State. Those 13 games didn't matter because the quarterback got hurt and we're judging it on a projection. But now suddenly strength of schedule is everything. Can't have it both ways. Can't have it both ways. Now you can, but you can't have it without me calling it out. It's on the reasonable, smart people which is everybody basically in the PATC family can disagree with each other. South Carolina was playing the best of all these teams. If they would not have lost a head-to-head with Ole Miss and Alabama, they'd be ahead of Ole Miss and Alabama. South Carolina beat Clemson. Clemson beat SMU. But SMU went 11-1. They lost the championship game by field goal, and they barely squeaked in. And if Alabama would have made it, they would have barely squeaked in. And if South Carolina would have made it, they would have barely squeaked in. And if BYU would have made it, they would have barely squeaked in. If Miami would have made it, they would have barely squeaked in. So somebody went in, and it was the team that played in a conference championship game. And if SMU would have lost that game by 17 points, they would have been out. Or even by 10 points, they would have been out. Okay, so that is that. Now, let's get to the portal. And you can let me know how wrong I got it once again in the chat room and with your phone calls later in the show. Let's start out with J.J. Cole. A lot of people in the chat room probably don't know who J.J. Cole is. I fell in love with him in his high school tape a couple years ago. 4-star, but he lost out to Rocco Becht, and I think he was the Cyclones' third string this year. So I don't know where J.J. Cole is going to go to. Maybe he goes, tries it out in the MAC conference, but he throws a pretty ball, I tell you. J.J. Cole, I'm going to be keeping an eye on J.J. Cole. Superstar, basically a first down creator. Georgia Tech wide receiver Eric Singleton has entered the portal. Caught 104 passes, 1,468 yards, 9 touchdowns in 2 seasons at Georgia Tech. And there is some more news that just came out. Right before we went on live, he does have visits scheduled. I think one of them is Ole Miss. But somebody can check on that. Somebody check on that. But yes, I believe that Eric Singleton is going to be a hot commodity in the portal. Carson Beck. Early in the day, this was reported. The feeling in talking with multiple sources in and around the Georgia Bulldog football program is quarterback Carson Beck has a UCL elbow injury and will miss the Sugar Bowl. Still waiting official MRI results, but there has been more reporting since then. The family is going to try to get more people to look at this situation. Is there something he can do? Is he completely ruled out of the playoffs? It sounds like no at this point. But again, this is I've been talking to people about this. Rocco, Georgia to me is the biggest wild card of the whole playoffs. The biggest wild card of the whole playoffs. I think they can win it all. I believe in Georgia. I believe in Oregon. I believe in Texas. Gunnar Stockton looked pretty good. Is he going to be ready? Is he can start in a playoff game 3 weeks from now because they get the bye? And not this week. The next week is the first round, and then Georgia is going to play the winner of Indiana and Notre Dame. But I still believe in Georgia. But they are hot and they are cold and they can't catch the football. Carson Beck, out. Cam Coleman, Auburn's wide receiver Cam Coleman. Coleman recorded 37 receptions, 598 yards, 8 touchdowns as a true freshman. He is going to have a lot of eyeballs on him, man. He's going to get a lot of money. Cam Coleman maybe did not have the season people anticipated at Auburn. This is a tough break for Auburn. Cam Coleman in the portal. Amon Hardy, true freshman All-American. True freshman All-American. Out of Louisiana Monroe is in the portal, and Ole Miss is hosting him. Ole Miss, the team that we have talked about for 2 years, not being able to run the ball when they needed to be able to run the ball. Well, they're going to try to solve some of that issue. I think a lot of it is on the offensive line, but some of that issue can be solved by Ahmed Hardy. Going to Ole Miss, I think that would be beautiful for Lane Kiffin. Absolutely beautiful. But he's not the only great running back. Not the only great running back coming out of the G5. Ismail Mahdi. I've talked about him before the season, during the season. One of the main reasons I picked Texas State Bobcats to be in the playoffs, and they did not get there. Ismail Mahdi plans to enter the transfer portal. Led the nation in all-purpose yards in 2023. First team All-American 2023. This year he was a little bit nicked up. Still had a very good year. This guy has so much talent. Who is going to get Ismail Mahdi? Whoever gets him, man, you got a player. You've got yourself a dog. Chandler Morris, North Texas quarterback Chandler Morris. The transfer in from TCU has re-entered the transfer portal. I think he wants one more shot at a power conference QB1 job. Had an incredible season this year. North Texas, 3,700 yards, 31 touchdowns. He wants one more shot, I believe. Chandler Morris, resurrecting his college career at North Texas, is in the portal. This next one is a shocker. Absolute shocker. Southern Cal's running back Quinton Joyner plans to enter the transfer portal. I'm in shock. We may have an issue at Southern California. Quinton Joyner was behind Woody Marks. Woody Marks had a sensational season this year for USC. 6-year senior. Woody Marks is going off to the NFL. Really good out of the backfield. Really good at catching the ball. Had a very good year running the ball. Quinton Joyner was the juice. When he got the rock, he led the Big Ten in yards per carry, 7.6 yards. Quinton Joyner was going to be RB1 next year under Lincoln Riley. What happened? What's going on? Why is Quinton Joyner leaving? Now, I did ask that question out in X. I thought maybe it's money. I was told it's not money. Maybe it's something else. Maybe something else is going on. Maybe there were players in that locker room that did not respect how Miller Moss was treated. I don't know the full story. I'm going to be poking and prodding here. I don't know. Quinton Joyner was all lined up. All lined up to be the guy. Now he's going to go somewhere else. And he is going to be a big big target in the portal, in my opinion. Here's some real good news. Real good news out of Big 12 country. Real good news. Cincinnati Bearcats. They keep the Godfather, Dante Corleone. Big old defensive tackle. The strong shall reign. One more for the city. He is coming back. Big news for the Cincinnati Bearcats. Big news. Wisconsin Badgers. Pete Thamel. Source, Wisconsin quarterback Tyler Van Dyke is entering the NCAA transfer portal. He'll have 1 year of eligibility remaining. He has 7,891 career passing yards, 55 career touchdown passes in his time at Miami and Wisconsin. Tyler Van Dyke, 1 more year. Where do you think Tyler Van Dyke is going to end up? Interesting, but this might even be more interesting. The current expectation is that star quarterback Cam Rising won't be back with Utah next season. But this is where it stands from what we understand here at Peek Around the Corner. Cam Rising may be in college football next year or may go to the NFL draft. That decision hasn't been made, or at least it hasn't been made publicly. The one decision that has been made and released in public is that Cam Rising is not coming back to Utah. Cam Rising led Utah to back-to-back Pac-12 championships. A great career with Utah. And he's not going to be in the uniform anymore. It's either to the NFL or he's going or he's college or the pros, but he's not going to be back at Utah. Okay, so that is the portal. There's a whole bunch of other portal news out there, but we could do that for the next 4 hours. 4 hours. John Teal, USC won't give him the ball, but Colorado will. Quentin Joyner. Whether they were going to give him the ball next year, but I do agree, Lincoln Riley, USC should have had more production on the ground this year. But Lincoln Riley, for whatever reason, he would call off the Dogs. Some points in those games that USC lost, where they were having all the success in the world on the ground and then they pulled back. Maybe that's it, John Till. Maybe you are absolutely correct. Maybe even if Quentin Joyner is coming back for an RB1 spot with USC, maybe he thought he still wasn't going to get the ball enough. Thank you, John Teal, for your super chat. I do appreciate it so very much. Thank you so very much. Helmer Henderson, Oregon gets rewarded with the most difficult path. Thank you for the super chat, Helmer Henderson. Maybe they'll do a reseeding next year, right? Maybe they reseed after the first round. I wouldn't scoff at having a first round bye, though. I know a lot of people are comparing Penn State and Oregon's pathway. You don't know what's going to happen in that Penn State game. They could lose. They could have injuries. Oregon is going to be having a week off. But I get it. I get it. Maybe they're going to be reseeding. But the one thing that's not going to happen in the next 5 years during the life of this contract is they're not going to have 12 at large. There's not going to be a ranking of the 12 best teams and have them 12 through 1. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because there were to get everybody. Remember, when they created this 12-team playoffs, it was in the middle of a current 13-year contract, which meant for them to change the college football format, for them to change the distribution amount, for them to change all this, they needed a unanimous vote. They needed everybody on board. They needed all the G5 conferences, all the power conferences, and they needed Notre Dame. And to get everybody on board, they needed to have access. They needed to protect the G5 and the Big 12 and the ACC. So the Big 10 and the SEC do have the votes to change a lot of the college football playoff format. A lot of it. If they agree, both of those entities together can change the playoff format. But there are even limitations to that. They cannot take away the 5 top conference champions getting an automatic berth. And they can't change the protections of Notre Dame being one of the top 12 teams that'll get in that large bid, which is common sense anyways. But those top 5 conference champions get an automatic berth. That is a protection. So, unless they want to get sued, I guess. But, so that is the reality on the ground. 5 years from now, the next playoff, we don't know what it's going to look like, right? We don't know what's going to look like. And starting in 2026, it could be expanded. There could be more automatic qualifiers. But there ain't going to be less automatic qualifiers. The one thing we're not going to see is no automatic qualifiers. Like top 12 rated, it's not going to happen. Unless Tony Petitti wants to get sued or Greg Sankey wants to get sued, then go ahead and try it. Maybe they will. Who knows? And again, and I said this, yeah, him or Pryor, yeah. And I said this earlier today. This whole thing of the NFL doesn't have necessarily the best teams making the playoffs. The NFL doesn't necessarily have the best records making the playoffs. The NFL doesn't have the top power rankings. The NFL has their system, right? The Green Bay Packers have the 4th best record in the NFC, but right now they got the 6th seed. In the NBA, the Western Conference right now is dominant over the Eastern Conference. Maybe they're going to mix them up. Maybe they're going to have no conferences and they just take the top 16. But for decades, the power in the NBA has switched back and forth, and there has been teams with better records that did not make the playoffs. Teams with worse records did. In the NFL, there's been teams that have gone to the playoffs with an 8-8 record. So this 12-team playoff, people are screaming, saying, well, Arizona State should not have the 4th seed, and Boise State should not have the 3rd seed. This happens in all the sports. But yet this sport, for whatever reason, it might change. It probably will change. But this is not like this isn't unique. This is actually how a lot of sports do their playoffs. They want to create incentive, drama in each person's conference or division or whatever we're talking about. The conference race, the division race, they want to have an incentive to win the conference championship. Okay. Why do people compare college sports to pro teams? Okay, don't do that. Compare it to college basketball. College basketball, you have conference champions getting an automatic berth into the dance. I don't know. I mean, some of this is, don't compare it to pro sports. Compare it to college sports. And it's still, there's nothing like super ridiculous about this system. This is how playoff systems are set up. They want to create incentive to win a conference. Now, look, if the Big Ten wants to go off and do their own thing, if the SEC wants to go off and do your own thing, go 5 years from now. Go ahead. But there is we did how many live shows did we do on this? 35 live shows. The negotiations were going on. The push back and forth were going on. But you needed a consensus because you were changing the playoffs within the middle of a current contract. So you needed the G5s. You needed their signature. You needed Notre Dame. You needed to protect Notre Dame. And the Big Ten has been pushing for this 4 automatic qualifiers. They might settle for 3. If the SEC might agree with the Big Ten, they can do that. There are things that they can do, but there are things they can't do. I am just relaying the realities of it. It's like the Big Ten and the SEC cannot tomorrow announce that they are going to have a 12-team playoffs, 1 through 12, and no conference champions get an automatic bid. They can't announce that. They're not going to announce that. So I'm just relaying that to you. Helmer Henderson, reseeding likely given the timing of ticket sales. Yeah, that's tough too. I don't know, Helmer Henderson. There is pros and cons on reseeding. The NFL does it. But college basketball doesn't do it. I don't want to, college basketball, they don't reseed, right? If the 11th seed and the 14th seed are playing in the 3rd round, so be it. Cinderella stories, which by the way is important to sell the product, in my opinion. Okay, let me get to, thank you, Helmer Henderson. Thank you so much for your generosity. Thanks once again. And the FCS model, which is college sports, they have automatic conference champions and they have automatic berths. They seed. They don't reseed. I don't have to compare it to NFL. That was just one comparison. I'm just saying, people don't like this playoff setup. Cool, that's fine. I happen to like it. You don't, that's fine. But the argument that, geez, this is so incredibly unique and blah, blah. No, it's not. It's how so many entities do it. So, and by the way, let me make this, let me say this, and then we're going to go on to something else here. The SEC is the most powerful, valuable conference in the country. It is today, it's going to be tomorrow, and it's going to be after these playoffs. This year they got 3 teams in. That's not a strike against the SEC. They easily could have had 4 teams in. they could have had 5 teams in. If South Carolina wouldn't have gotten screwed, in my opinion, by the referees, if SMU would have lost to Duke, on and on and on. There's so many ways that the SEC could have had 4 or 5. There's so many different ways that the Big 12 could have had 2. There's so many ways if Miami wouldn't have lost, the ACC could have had 3. The Big 10 could have ended up with 2. This whole thing about judging conferences, like this overreaction to, oh, we got 4, we got 3. Oh, the ACC got 2 teams in, but the Big 12 got a 3rd seed, so therefore the Big 12 is better. No, therefore the ACC better. Come on. The SEC is the best football conference in the nation. This isn't a slight against the SEC. This is not a bias against the SEC. There's no dramatic changes. It isn't like, oh, the SEC, we only got 3. Come on. The SEC could easily get 5 in next year. Or 4 or 3 or 6 or whatever. People are taking this like way too... People have conference-itis. Conference-itis. It's weird for me because the Big Ten, man, I don't root for the Big Ten. So I root for the Golden Gophers. If the Buckeyes lose, good. If the Hawkeyes lose, good. But most college football fans, and I love you all, but you're so tied up with your conference and the results of the playoffs. The SEC is the most powerful, is the best football conference in the nation. The gap has closed, but in my opinion, it's still the truth. Nothing changes because you only get 3 teams in. Okay, we're getting off this beaten path. Now, West Virginia. West Virginia. Let me check real quick. Any updates. Because, wow. Okay, so the portal is open today. It would shock the hell out of me. If this coaching search by West Virginia goes beyond tomorrow. Okay, I'm just reading the board here. Okay, how do I say this? The title screen, Rich Rodriguez return. There is, when it was a couple hours ago, when it seemed to be the case that Andy Koltenicky is no longer in the race to become the new head coach of West Virginia, I got the DMs, I got text messages, then it's Rich Rodriguez. I don't think that it could be Rich Rodriguez. We have him number 1 on the board. But I don't think the anti-Koltenicky going through the exit means that it's Rich Rodriguez. Because they were not in the same lane. They did not have the same type of support. Rich Rodriguez is in his own lane. And here is the thing that I want to relay. The people supporting Rich Rodriguez have made their pitch, have made their commitments, have promissory notes to the athletic director. Ren Baker has all that information. There's a reason why when Neil Brown is fired, an hour after Neil Brown is fired, we came up on here and said Rich Rodriguez is number one because of the boosters. Now, you've seen a lot of articles written since then. You've had a lot of people on podcasts, especially the last 48 hours, saying the boosters are supporting Rich Rodriguez. We said that 1 hour after Neil Brown was fired. The Money Perch spoke early. They've been speaking often. But yet, as we sit here Monday, December 9th, the day that the portal has opened, Rich Rodriguez is still not the head coach of West Virginia. So, if Rich Rodriguez is not announced, in my opinion here, some speculation, some logic, some stuff that's been relayed to us from the get-go. If Rich Rodriguez is not named by tonight or early tomorrow morning, I think they're going to that different lane. And that lane is occupied by more than one candidate. Because the Rich Rodriguez thing should be all sewn up if it was going to be him. So I think there's a time clock on Rich Rodriguez becoming the new head coach of West Virginia. I believe there's a time clock on Rich Rodriguez's return. I don't think because his candidacy is there, it's been pitched, Ren Baker knows what's involved, promissory notes. There's a certain level of commitment that you're getting with the Rich Rodriguez head coach, but yet it still hasn't happened. The Rodriguez in-person interview until tomorrow, we have been told so many different things on Rich Rodriguez on his interview. We were told there was one a couple days ago. Even before the Jacksonville State Conference Championship game. There's no question they've been. And then there are rumors about Pat McAfee. Pat McAfee. He's supporting Rich Rodriguez. There is, and I have not been able to get to the bottom of this, but there is a Pat McAfee where he might not be traveling to where other people he works with are traveling, college game day, whatever that is. His schedule sounds like it's changed, or it is up to be changed, where he's going to, let me say this. If Rich Rodriguez, if there's a press conference tomorrow in Morgantown or on Wednesday, I think Pat McAfee's going to be there. But again, there is a lot of support for Rich Rodriguez. But there is that other lane, that other half, maybe not half, maybe 40%, that wanted Antti Koltunicky. But now looking at Jeff Munkin, now looking at Anthony Becht, you've got UNLV. If Rich Rodriguez doesn't go to West Virginia, I think he might be going to Vegas. There's a lot of rumors circling around right now. But I think the Rich Rodriguez is on a time clock. I think if it goes past tomorrow morning, in the morning hours, I think that means they're deciding on the other lane of candidates. And Ren Baker's going to have to make it work with the boosters. Because we can tell you here at Peek Around the Corner, without a shadow of a doubt, if Rich Rodriguez becomes the head coach for West Virginia, yeah, some of that baggage comes along. Some of that distrust comes along. Some of that, I don't know, comes along. But what comes along is the money, the support, the NIL, and I believe the ticket sales, the t-shirt sales, the merchandise, the eyeballs, the people on the message boards, the phone calls, people reading newspapers, all back West Virginia Mountaineers if Rich Rodriguez returns. I believe the Rich Rodriguez story ends soon. By early tomorrow. Either he's the coach, and if he's not the coach, he ain't going to be the coach. There's a time clock on Rich Rodriguez. That's what we believe here at Peek Around the Corner. Now, again, we're waiting. We're doing a live show, and if there's breaking news, we will cover it. We will cover it here. I'm reading the comments. Yes, there's been a lot of rumors. Absolutely. But there has been some facts as well. And we have covered those facts. Hemmer Hennison, Greg, let's switch. Let the Gophers play Bama and let Michigan play Vermont. Not Vermont. Virginia Tech. Thank you for the super chat. We'll take Bama on. We'll take Bama on, but they won't let us have Bama. They will not let us have Bama. Thank you for the super chat, Helmer Henderson. If you look at the portal, and then we're going to get to North Carolina. We're going to get to North Carolina. But I just want to sum it up. I want to sum up the West Virginia situation. We believe at Peek Around the Corner that the Rich Rodriguez candidacy is on a time clock. If he ain't named the coach by early tomorrow morning, we don't think he's going to be named the coach. Because you've got and I understand the interview part. Well, they've already talked. They already know. There's nothing left with the Rich Rodriguez situation. Either you make the decision in that lane or you don't. Jeff Morgan is trusting Ren to make his choice. If it goes beyond tomorrow morning, then they're going to that other lane. That's what we believe. It's redemption time, baby. A lot of that word redemption rings true. Rings true. Everybody wants, or not everybody. There's a certain segment of the support of West Virginia that wants to have not only redemption, but a reunion, a clearing of the air, a re-energized fan base. Whose option B is that other? It's that other lane of Jeff Munkin. It's that other lane of Anthony Beck. It's that other lane that Anthony Kolnicki was leading in. But now it's not going to be Andy Kolnicki. Okay. And by the way, getting back to Ricky Tungate. Towards your new equipment, thank you, Mr. Tungate. Thank you so much, Mr. Hoosier. Indiana, Notre Dame, Friday night, December 20th. The tickets are sold out. The tickets are sold out. The atmosphere is going to be crazy. we're going to talk more about the games in the next few days here. But, I was listening to the great John Kennedy, the Always Irish podcast. He does a great job. He brought up a couple really good points about this game that I wasn't thinking of. He said, on one hand, Notre Dame is playing a team in Indiana. Well, maybe they don't have the Jimmies and the Joes. They don't have those high recruiting rankings, But here's Notre Dame. We get a first round bye. We survived the Northern Illinois loss. We come back and we beat everybody on our schedule handily. And we don't get to host a team from the South. We are hosting a team from the North. The weather advantage, if there is one, if there was going to be one, is gone. And not only are we hosting a northern team, we're hosting the team down the road. So that advantage is gone. So the whole time we were thinking, well, okay, we're gonna be playing a tough SEC team if we get a home game, or maybe an AC, whatever. But Indiana. And Indiana, there's going to be Hoosier fans there. There's going to be family members of the Irish. Season tickets. There's going to be Hoosier fans there. So it's kind of a weird situation for Notre Dame. Pretty interesting. Thank you, Ricky Tungate. I appreciate your super chat. Thank you for your generosity once again. Now let's get to North Carolina. What time is it? 7:44 Eastern Time. 6:44 Central Time. I'm going to update this just to let everybody know. And now this won't let me, hold on. I got to do something different here. Bill Belichick is going to be on the Manning cast for Monday Night Football tonight. And I think it could be at 8:15 Eastern all the way to about 9 o'clock Eastern. I think he's going to show up at the first half of it. So yeah, we're going to get through that real quick here. So I'm reading comments sent to me. So now, I think I would urge everybody after this live show is over to go watch Monday Night Football, the Manning cast, Eli Manning, Peyton Manning, and watch Bill Belichick. Does he walk into that room with a North Carolina Tar Heel blue hoodie on? Would that be a way to take it by storm? Recruiting, going in the portal tomorrow? If he walks into that Manning cast with that baby blue North Carolina hoodie on, I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. Belichick would announce his commitment live. Let me get to the story that people are talking about. WRAL Belichick. Come on. Bill Belichick has met with North Carolina officials, including Chancellor Lee Roberts, about the school's football opening. But the search and the hiring process, now in its second week, has been hampered by issues among officials, according to multiple people. A senior administrator said the process had been prolonged by what was termed antics of board members becoming involved in the process and causing confusion. The administrator indicated the process would have been wrapped up at this point if not for that. Cunningham and Roberts are leading the search, but others, including members of the school's board of trustees, John Pryor, has been getting involved. John Pryor was critical of how the fire in the Brown was handled. Pryor and other members criticized Cunningham for the financial health of the department. Pryor and other board members have criticized Cunningham for not being more aggressive when it comes to conference realignment, which, by the way, is one of the reasons why we believe this is the year of Bubba. While he could not be aggressive in conference realignment in 2024 because legally he couldn't, North Carolina couldn't. Well, there are other options out there that there might be a certain type of frustration blowback. Bubba Cunningham might be doing something else. Maybe not being aggressive in the courts, but aggressive in another particular maneuver. We're going to have to watch it. But this is one of the reasons Cunningham is under a lot of pressure. A lot of pressure from the Board of Regents, and a lot of those Board of Regents members are pro-SEC. We talked about that. But legally, Cunningham could not do anything. But Cunningham might be making another move if he survives this. The NFL legend, Bill Belichick, has the backing of some donors and officials. A source told WRAL Belichick was the university's initial long list of candidates. The school has had conversations about hiring Belichick for more than a month as it searches for a replacement for Mac Brown, a source told WRAL. The senior administrator expressed frustration that the university has not been able to focus on the search, the person, and the announcement. During an appearance on Pat McAfee's show, Belichick outlined some of his thoughts on running a college program. I've had the opportunity to talk with Chancellor Roberts. We've had a couple good conversations. We'll see how it goes. ESPN's Adam Scheffler reported today, that UNC officials and Belichick met for 5 hours on Sunday. Belichick declined to get into details of the meeting. I don't think you spend 5 hours. After days of discussions with the university, if there's not something to it, Scheffler said during an appearance on the Pat McAfee show. Now, whether or not North Carolina can put together a package that's attractive and compelling enough for Bill, whether that's ultimately what he decides to do, we'll see. And again, the PATC money shot is this part. The PATC money shot of this article in really the North Carolina news for tonight. Whether or not North Carolina can put together a package that's attractive and compelling enough for Bill Belichick. That package has to do with what? The amount of money that you're going to be able to spend on your staff. The amount of money you're going to be able to spend on your recruiting staff. The amount of money you're going to be able to spend to go on an airplane for recruiting. The amount of money you're going to be able to spend on your student athletes and the salary cap. What kind of collectives? The package. And of course the money to Bill Belichick. But all that stuff. And all that stuff, you're going to need money. And of course we all know that North Carolina is going to have to keep spending a whole lot of money, NIL money, on the basketball program. So where is this new resource going to come from? These new resources. Is North Carolina going to go all in on the football program? Again, we're back to the year of Bubba. The year of Bubba. I want to show you guys something. I want to play you a video here. I'm going to have to go find it. Give me a moment. Give me a moment, please. I apologize. I do not have this set up. And then we're going to go to your phone calls. I know I've been talking for a long time here. We've had a lot to get through. West Virginia, North Carolina. We believe there's a time clock in the Rich Rodriguez candidacy. Now I got to find it. Please let me find it. Please let something go right here. Okay. I do apologize. I should have had this. I should have had this all figured out. Okay, so this is no. Go back there. Go back there. Go back there. Okay, so this was This was 3 days ago. 3 days ago, this was put out on X by Joe Pompilano, sports and business investing at Pomp Investments, host of the Joe Pomp Show. He's got over 605,000 followers on X. 605,000 followers on X. This is former Milwaukee Bucks owner Mark Lasry. Says he's actively trying to buy college football and basketball teams. Lasry says certain colleges could sell a 51% stake in their teams at a $500 million to $750 million valuation, and then use that money for NIL and facility upgrades. Crazy times. I'm going to have this on here. Hopefully the volume is good enough. Hopefully the volume is good enough. I cannot promise you a rose garden, but let's give this a try. Again, part owner of the Milwaukee Bucks, former owner, excuse me, he just recently sold it. Remember, a lot of private equity companies own parts of NBA franchises. Okay? Here we go. Hopefully this works.
And I think what you're going to see is you're going to see a number of schools selling their teams. And the reason for that...
To whom?
To folks like us. Like, we're bidding on a couple teams, I can't tell you. But in essence, what we would do is buy 51% of the team. And, you know, I mean, I think if you look at a bunch of these programs, they're making 50, 100 million off of their football program, off of their basketball program. So it's a way for universities, by the way, because under federal law, they've got to offer scholarships in all these different sports. So they've got to update their facilities. So one of the things they want to do is sort of say, okay, great, my football program makes 100 million. We'll sell 50%, that's 50 million. Do a 10 multiple on that, 15 multiple, that's 500, 750 million. That'll come for them to sort of fix different things at the university. So you're going to start seeing more of that. What the schools need is they need money for NIL, but you can't go out and raise money for NIL because that's not a deduction, right? So that if you're giving $1 million to Michigan and you can say, I wanted to go to the sports program, that's great. But if you say I wanted to go for NIL, then it's not a deduction. So that's the issue.
Okay, so um, if you go back and listen to that, if you go back, after this live show's over, go back to that part. Go to the first part of it. The first part of it is this gentleman says, I've already got a bid. I've already got a bid on a couple of these programs, these universities, these programs, but I can't say what they are. Non-disclosure agreement, right? He's already got a bid on a couple of them. So we have been told at Peek Around the Corner that there are schools who've been working on this, but they are hesitant to strike the deal, not because they're not pro-private equity. Although, this hasn't been done at a college level. They are, because what they have come to believe is it's better. The private equity gives you more value the larger the scope of the deal, the larger the entity, the larger, in other words, it would benefit conference PATC. If we were a conference, it would benefit our individual institutions better if the private equity came in as a conference level. This is what Brett Yormark is trying to push. He's trying to say, look, we're going to all benefit more if we do this as a conference. And then there are people out there who believe we can even do better than that. We can have private equity come in as even bigger than one conference, as a Super League. But again, the Super League probably isn't going to happen. Or maybe it ain't going to happen with the Big Ten and the SEC. Maybe something else can be arranged among the Big 12 and the ACC. Probably not, but that is what people are looking at. So you got a private equity guy here who's already done this in the NBA, and he's got a bid up. He said it. I got a bid up for a couple of these. I can't tell you who they are. So these schools are, some of these schools are not Big Ten and SEC schools, Big 12 and ACC schools. Some of them are, Florida State is, and it's more than Florida State. And this is the reason why. Now, this was December 6th. About 3 weeks ago or whatever, we came on live here and I said, whoa. The North Carolina, there might be this situation where private equity comes in and the dissolution of the ACC is part of that. That's one crazy scenario, but there are people are talking about it because this money is sitting on the table. Now, Yeah, we believe that Koltaniki is not part of it anymore here. For West Virginia. Yeah. We've talked about that early in the program. Hold on, everybody. I just want to make sure. Hold on. I'm not done with the private equity. We are going to get to your phone calls. There's one more important thing I want to talk about when it comes to that. Hold on, everybody. Hold on. Okay. Yeah, Andy Koltaniki is not part of it. His candidacy is no longer, but there are other candidates in his lane. Another indication, we believe, if it's not Rich Rodriguez, here real soon, then we think somebody in the other lane is going to get it. It's got to be, there is a time clock on Rich Rodriguez. That is what we believe, for very good reason. Very good reason. Okay, announcements set for tomorrow. Okay, we'll keep an eye on it. Again, if it's Rich Rodriguez, it's got to be soon. I've already gotten into it. I don't want to waste any more time on it. Go back to our live show. He's been our number one on the hot board since an hour after Neil Brown was fired. Back to private equity, and then we're going to get to your phone calls. The value of private equity is there is a quick infusion of cash, okay? But universities can get cash. They can get cash on the cheap. The real value of private equity is the combination of that infusion of cash, but all the connections that private equity gives you. There's a reason why the NBA franchises, a lot of them bring in private equity. There's a reason why the NFL just made the decision that each franchise in the NFL can allot a certain percentage of their ownership to private equity because it benefits the franchise. Because of all the connections that they have. All the value that they bring forward isn't just about the money. Now, I'm not smart enough to be able to tell you what all those are, but, they can bring in sponsorship, whatever it is, international marketing, whatever it is, sport franchises across the country believe they benefit with the partnership. Universities are looking down the same road with that. So I just want to explain that once again. Okay, now we're going to get to your phone calls. I do apologize. We have been a little scattered. John Teal, imagine if Brady's with him and he says, he's my OC. Yeah. Imagine if Brady, again, Bill Belichick is going to be on the Manning cast, the Monday Night Football game here in a little bit, Bill Belichick. So we'll see if he says anything. Go check it out. If he says anything later tonight on Monday Night Football. Monday Night Football. Well, Brett Yormark has already had great success with private equity. Keep that in mind. He's already had great success with it. The NBA has already had great success with it. And I'm going to tell you this, and you can take it however you want it. One of the advantage, the big advantage the Big 12 has over the ACC is they have the private equity option. The ACC does not, doing it as a conference, And it's another reason why that possibility of dissolution, as crazy as it sounds, that's why people are discussing it. Okay, the phone lines are open. Give me a call, talk about anything you want. Let me know how wrong I got it. Once again, 763 260 1333. 763 260 1333. While I wait for your phone calls.
From
BJ.
BJ, the floor is yours.
Hey, what's up, Greg? As always, thanks for letting me speak on your platform. Jam-packed show tonight. Great job, disseminating all that information in a coherent manner.
I don't think it was coherent, but thank you. I don't think I was coherent tonight, but I appreciate the kind words.
I'll follow. There's so much. So I'll try to keep it short, right?
Yeah.
So first and foremost, my opinion about private equity. I think private equity isn't the boogeyman, right? Right. However, for public universities, it's a fine line to walk, right? A lot of folks, especially in the ACC, astute academic institutions who are worth billions upon billions of dollars in terms of endowment, I would imagine they will be more skeptical about private equity, right? Because a lot of folks on the boards at the North Carolinas, at the Virginias, at the Pitts are running their own private equity funds.
Sure are.
Hedge funds, right?
Yep.
And they know the most important thing is there's an exit strategy. And a lot of times when they exit these businesses, the longevity or the health of these industries and businesses are not at the forefront of priorities when it comes to these private equity firms. So I don't want to say that it's the boogeyman, but for public institutions, it's not as easy as getting in and getting out, for one. For two, on another note, as it pertains to North Carolina, I know you talked about this several times. However, Greg, until it happens, I will be skeptical of Belichick, and it has nothing to do with North Carolina, but just in college. College over the last couple of years, you have to kind of be a young man's game. They're running off seasoned and veteran coaches, right, to pros in retirement. Belichick and Saban are really good friends. Saban, has commented several times that the way college was going in terms of NIL and just the lawlessness of it was too unsavory for him. He did not like that. Yep. I just don't see his buddy willingly jumping into that fray, right? Belichick is known for having, control. And in college, the control is the boosters because they pay the checks, right? He had a great relationship with Kraft, right? That's why that dynasty was able to flourish. Kraft and Belichick, supposedly had a great relationship. And with North Carolina, with their politics and just their cooks in the kitchen, I just don't see that happening. It may happen. I'm not saying it won't. I find it hard to believe. My rational brain, as I look through the different options, I find it hard to believe, right? Yeah. Thirdly, with the West Virginia pick, out of the whole situation, I mentioned this in the comment section. There's rumors been going around. You mention the rumors, and you don't speculate. You just report the rumors that you hear, right? But out of everything, with West Virginia, I feel bad for the athletic director, right? Reports are like they don't really want to hire Rich Rodriguez, but the fans and the upswell for Rich Rod is so great that he's almost forced to hire him, right? And if he hires Rich Rod and it doesn't go well, you would imagine his job is on the line. So I feel bad for being forced to hire somebody that you're not really behind. And if he fails, my job is at stake. So I don't know who's going to end up being the coach. You mentioned Rich Rod, but it is quite interesting that the two Big 12 jobs that are open could potentially be retreads. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing, because time waits for nobody, and expecting Scott Frost to do what he did in UCF or Rich Rod to be a 10, 11 win team, I think is a little much, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah.
And lastly, the transfer portal, right? I think it was a lot of folks going in and out, in and out, in and out. And I'm not saying kids should have the right to do whatever they want to do, but it is freaking frustrating to not know what your team is going to look like.
Yeah.
It's like it kind of simmers the excitement you have going into the off season. So as a CU fan, graduate, and Florida State fan, I've kind of detached from like getting too excited about people we add or lose. But I do think that all of this could be kind of handled if they get to the bargaining table and allow the students or the athletes to collectively bargain, and it'll be better for the sport. It will be better for the sport. Until that happens, I think as a fan, we're in this roller coaster, having to kind of take positions that we really don't want to take, or we have to take. Like you mentioned, you mentioned earlier, you're not a fan of the Big 12 or the Big 10, right? You're a fan of Minnesota.
That's right.
And I think you and the Big 10, kind of how they look at things, and ACC fans look at things the same way. They're fans of the team. They're not really fans of the conference. The SEC is a conference. I support the conference at all costs league. And I think I've noticed after Texas and Oklahoma left the conference, the Big 12 is kind of like conference. And I'm not saying it's good or bad. I just noticed that those two conferences, those who's fans of those conferences, really push the conference, where the ACC and the Big 10, they push their team. I've never seen a Michigan person root for Ohio State and vice versa. Never seen that. But with that being said, Greg, as always, thanks for allowing me to speak and voice my opinion on several sports matters in college football. And you have a blessed night.
You got it. Thank you, sir. Thanks for calling. Call again, my man. David Griffin, Heisman Committee got it wrong. Got the wrong Cam as a finalist. We all know it should have been Shadaboo.
Call from
Tristan Fives.
Tristan is on the line. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling, sir.
Hey, thanks, Greg. I appreciate you taking my call. Hey, listen, I think it was a couple of weeks ago where I called in and I was commenting to you about, North Carolina looks like they don't know what they want to be. They don't know how they want to handle their future. And if I understand what you're saying, that trend continues. They seem to be trying to go in multiple different directions because different people have different agendas, it sounds like. They're not on the same page. Mm-hmm. Is that sort of what you're saying here?
Well, yeah. I mean, the structure of, it's a couple of things, right? The Board of Governors have a lot of power, and a lot of universities don't have to deal with that. North Carolina does. The Board of Governors look over 13 public universities, and now they have a lot more power than they've ever had before. And then on the decisions that UNC Chapel Hill Board of Regents can make, you have a Board of Regents that has been not supportive of Bubba Cunningham, right or wrong. I don't know, but they haven't been supportive of Bubba Cunningham for a long time. They're the ones who basically said, Kevin Gusowich, we don't want to see you anymore. So he went to Michigan State. Now, what did happen is Lee Roberts, the chancellor of North Carolina, who was temporary and now is permanent, he was put in the chancellor position by the Board of Governors. So again, Roberts is there and he's supporting Bubba Cunningham. So you have this natural friction between the Board of Regents of the UNC Chapel Hill and the athletic director and the chancellor, still, even Roberts taking over for Gusowich and the Board of Governors. You have this natural fight going on, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a mess. It's an absolute mess.
Right. Well, I did you get it? So I haven't heard all your shows. I try to keep up, but I don't get a chance to see all of them.
Yep.
Did you happen to talk about on any of your previous shows the ACC SEC challenge in basketball?
Yeah, ACC got whooped pretty bad. Yep.
Yeah, and so Greg, I think what is probably going to come from that is that I think a lot of ACC folks are going to look at that and say, we just can't keep up. NIL is having an impact, and these big universities and the Big Ten and SEC just have way more resources, and it's starting to really have an effect, it looks like to me. And I think that that's going to prompt activity or actions where they might have been, reluctant or trying to hold things together. Man, I don't know. It feels like this latest result from last week just it's going to accelerate things. They're going to have to take some actions. That's what it feels like to me.
And I don't know what exactly that action is going to be. We've laid out a couple different options here. But we think it's going to be the year of Bubba. But maybe he doesn't. Maybe he just says, hell with this. I can't even name my own head coach without interference from the Board of Regents or the Board of Governors or both. So, but I think you're correct. I think we're going to see action. And I think it's going to come from a very uncharted waters type of action.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens in the whole conference, not just UNC. But Greg, also about this University of Georgia quarterback situation. I think that their backup quarterback, Gunnar Stockton, Greg, he brings something to that offense that you didn't have with Beck. He's got real scrambling ability.
Yeah.
Greg, he's actually reminiscent to me of kind of a Bo Nix type player with his athleticism.
Yes, he definitely does. I just happen to think that Gunnar Stockton makes another layer. Like, I believe Georgia's the wild card of this playoffs. If we see the right Georgia, if we see the Georgia team that has it all together, that's not fumbling the ball, that's actually catching the ball, I think Georgia is the wild card. And I think Gunnar Stockton is just another layer of icing called the wild card. I think he's another wild card on already a wild card cake. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah, no, I do agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think the problem here, though, is, Greg, we don't know if he really can do the job passing the football.
We don't know. Yeah.
And he's got a little bit of time, in practice as the number one QB, but man, it's going to be tough. I don't know what in the world they're going to do if he gets injured. I don't even know who third string would be in this case, to be honest with you. So I love the potential of Gunnar Stockton. It's exciting to have an actual scrambling quarterback at Georgia, but man, they're in dangerous territory. If he gets injured, they're finished. So,
yeah, and that's another part of it. Thanks for bringing that up. You go to your backup quarterback, but now what happens if your backup quarterback gets hurt?
Yeah, and man, he took a shot, didn't he?
God, he took a shot. Yeah.
Man, I don't understand how he didn't. I mean, he had to have had a concussion, right?
I don't know, man. These young kids, they can handle that stuff. You would have had to taken me out on a gurney if that happened to me.
Hey, I'd still be knocked out
Yeah.
unconscious from that one.
Yeah.
Well, hey, listen, I appreciate you taking my call and keep up the good work, Greg.
Got it. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thanks for the call,
All right.
man.
Bye-bye.
Ryan Willie, peak, cloak, and dagger for 12 months. 12 months. Hold on, sir. Hold on.
Call from
Lewis.
Lewis, can you hold on for just a second?
Sure.
I appreciate it. Ryan Willie, early peak, cloak, and dagger, 12 months. Thank you so very much. You are hereby knighted, cloak and dagger. Thank you, Ryan Willie, for your continued support of this channel, for all that you do and your great phone calls. Thank you, Evil Badger, Ryan Willie. Thank you so much. Lewis, thank you for your patience. Thanks for calling in. I'm very, very, very interested in what you have to say about the West Virginia Mountaineers coaching search. Go ahead, sir.
No, well, I will certainly share those thoughts with you. Haven't changed much from the last week. Rich Rodriguez has been the low-hanging fruit because no other job that's been open in this cycle, or really the last few cycles at the Power 5 level, or even at the Group of 5 level, has seriously considered him as a candidate because there's just a lot of baggage there. Mm-hmm. West Virginia is the only Power 5 job that would hire him, or Power 4 job that would hire him. He has support, so it's not a surprise, but it is a disappointment and a letdown because I just don't think that's the way you go. It's a retread. Way back to 1993, Pitt hired Johnny Majors. He was phenomenally successful at Pitt in the 70s. He came to Pitt, and it was the worst era in their program and set their program back significantly. And UCF's doing the same thing. Generally speaking, retreads just don't work. The game has changed, and here's what it comes down to. Are you going to support the team? Sure. But he better win quickly and win big. The Big 12's wide open. I hear some people already making excuses that West Virginia's schedule is difficult next year. Well, how do you know? The last years of the Big 12, the teams picked at the top and up at the bottom and vice versa. Nobody had Arizona State. No one said Arizona State was going to win the conference. So they had Oklahoma State winning the conference. Oklahoma State finished last. He better win. He's got to win big and fast. He wins 9 games next year. He gets West Virginia in the mix the last weekend for the conference title. Even if they don't make it, if they're in that involved, well, people will forget the wounds of 2007. But there are still, would you have 25-30% of the fan base is so young, quite frankly, they don't even remember, weren't even around. If you were not around in 2007, you can't understand just what happened and how devastating that loss is. The program has not recovered from it 17 years later, because they've never seriously contended for the national championship since 2007. So I think bringing back that person that was responsible for the worst loss in school history is a horrible message. And on top of that, the way he left,
13-9,
the way that he left, and Pitt takes credit, but really that was all on West Virginia. It was on Rodriguez. It wasn't. Pitt just happened to be the opponent. It could have been anybody. They came in, did not know how to. As a Duke fan, I know that when you're a championship team, there's a way you handle the situation. I knew going into that week that West Virginia was not handling being in that situation like I've seen Duke handle the basketball because they're used to it, and West Virginia completely blew that week. But so that's what's going to happen. I do feel bad for Ren Baker if that's the case, as the first caller said, because I could be wrong. I don't believe that's really what he wants to do. But it sounds like that's really where it's going. And to be honest with you, Greg, the other candidates being mentioned, Jeff Monken and Beck has no experience. That's a huge roll of the dice to bring in somebody without any experience coaching at all. And Monken, I just don't think that's the right job. I could see Monken, for example, being a good fit, for example, at Duke or at some other schools of that nature. I just don't see him being a good fit at West Virginia. So I think it's going to be Rodriguez. And we'll see what he does. I'm not excited about it, but I guess I'll be excited about it a year from now if we're sitting at 9 or 10 wins at West Virginia.
What?
So I guess two other. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to ask you real quick. What coach did you want to be the new head coach of West Virginia? That was a reasonable, like, West Virginia could get.
Yeah, well, I think Coach Olnicki is who I was in favor of. I think that Duke hired a coordinator out of Penn State, Diaz. Diaz had some head coaching experience, and Diaz has done well. I think Coach Olnicki was, and I also think Schumann. He's young, but again, because there's one exception on the coordinator. Kirby Smart was never a head coach. He was a coordinator, and he went to Georgia and built them into a winner. Mm-hmm. And that's what you're looking at. Otherwise, you want your candidates to have experience. But I think Coach Olnicki and Schumann both had the credentials to go right up to be head coach. The problem you have is the playoff is still going on. Penn State will likely be in it until at least the 9th or 10th of January because they do have an easier path to the playoff. And I want to make a couple quick points about the playoff, and then I'll be done. The playoff, I'm happy with the way that it went. I mean, Alabama has no room to complain. They shouldn't lose 24-3 to a 6-6 Oklahoma team if they really expect to be in the playoff. That was disqualifying, and the SEC could have had more teams in it if their teams would have beaten the teams they should have. And the second thing is the ACC and the Big 12 both ended up saving face. The Big 12 got the bye and was not left out of the byes, which it looked like it was going to be coming into the weekend. And the ACC, while left out of the byes, got 2 teams in. And that's money. And that's why you should always root for your conference, Greg. Maybe the Big 10 with your billion-dollar TV contract, you don't have to worry about it. But the ACC and the Big 12, another bid, the ACC is another, I believe, $4 million for the conference that gets divided among the teams. So that's some real money by getting that second team. And it also helped Duke get a better bowl bid. Duke has its best bowl bid in 30 years. As far, not the best bid, but the first Florida Bowl in 30 years. I mean, they were in Atlanta for the Peach Bowl, so that was their best bid. But the best first Florida Bowl in 30 years, I'm heading down, bringing the family. We're going down to Disney World, and we're going to go to the Gator Bowl. That's very exciting for Duke. And so the 2 teams opened it up for Duke. You also have ESPN is going to have its first game telecast from Notre Dame since 1990. Because since 91, NBC's had that. So ESPN, there's no question they seized on it. But I really believe when it came down to it, the committee was not going to screw the ACC 2 years in a row, or at least that would be the perception if SMU was left out. And that just became, there was already enough sort of instability and anger over Florida State last year. They weren't going to do it 2 years in a row, and Alabama disqualified themselves. So looking forward to the playoffs. They will probably do some reseeding, but my final point, in this 12-team playoff, you have 8 elite programs. You have 4 programs from college football's middle class. Indiana's in the Big Ten, but they're still not a team you expect to be there. So I think everybody in the middle class programs or for middle class teams will root for Indiana, SMU, Boise State, and Arizona State to see what they can do when they play against the elite programs. But I have a feeling that when we get to the Final Four, it's going to be 4 elite programs. Have a great evening. This is a great show, Greg.
Great call once again, Lewis. Thank you, sir. The legend, Lewis. Look, I completely understand Lewis's point. That was directed at me. You know, there are lots of good reasons why you root for the conference that your team's in, because it helps to win more money, TV money. I get all that. I get it. But just let everybody know, I come from a perspective, this is a national college football YouTube channel. Sometimes I spew out the Gophers propaganda, but hold on.
Call from
Larry.
Larry, is that you?
Yes.
Okay, can you
How
hold
we
on?
doing?
Hold on just 1 second.
Sure enough.
I appreciate it, Larry. I just want to finish this thought. But if you're asking,
Go ahead.
Hold on, Larry. I don't know what happened there, but if I cannot do it, I can't do it. Now there may be a time where I root for a Big Ten team over another team, But it ain't because that team's from the Big Ten. It's just because maybe the coach I like, the quarterback I like, whatever. I can't do it. I have been the Gophers have been the original Big Ten team. When I was a youngster, I read all the books on the Big Ten. I used to go to the library. In fact, I still have a huge, it's a book, a green covered book that's about this thick. It's up in the attic. And it's from 1978. It's from 1978 is the last year where they had updated the standings. So it's from 1896 to 1978. The whole history from the Big Ten. I look at the Big Ten schools the same way I look at all you guys' schools. I cannot root for them. Can't do it. People were watching I was not rooting for Michigan in the playoffs. I wasn't rooting against them, but I just can't do it. I can't get there. The evil Badgers, the evil Hawkeyes, especially, I'm not going to root for them. Are you kidding me? So I cannot do it, guys. And maybe it's because the Big Ten has been together forever, basically. Maybe it's just so I cannot do it. And there's a lot of Big Ten fans that are the same. Some Big Ten fans will cheer for us because, we're going up against the SEC, the Big 12, whatever, but not me. Golden Gophers, and then everybody else. Then there's Golden Gophers, 50 miles of bleep, and then everybody else. Okay, Larry, are you still there?
Yeah, I sure am.
All right, West Virginia, Larry, correct? Or who are we talking to?
You're talking to me, West Virginia, Larry.
Got it. All right, sir. The floor is yours. Thanks for calling.
Hey, how come you're not rooting for my Mountaineers compared to your Minnesota? I wrote for your Minnesota Vikings or Minnesota Gophers when they're not playing West Virginia.
Do you really?
You should be rooting. Yes, I do.
Well,
I've been following you. I have been.
I do appreciate that. I do root for West Virginia but Larry, if it's West Virginia versus Indiana, I'm not rooting for Indiana because they're a Big Ten member. That's my point that I'm trying to make. I don't have it in me. It's not in me. It's not in me. I don't care if it's a team from Big Ten. I just don't give a rat's behind if a team's from the Big Ten or from the Big 12 or whatever. I apologize, Larry. Continue on, sir.
That's fine. I just wanted to, first call, I just wanted to tell Lewis, the last caller, that he was hitting the nail on the head. Us old-timers at West Virginia can never forgive Rich Rodriguez, no matter what. Now, if he comes back, I will still root for West Virginia, but I will not root for Rich Rodriguez. and I think it's just a horrible, horrible situation they're putting Ren Baker in.
Wow.
I trust Ren Baker to make the right choice. I don't like this pressuring. I think it's all wrong, and I'm sorry for the West Virginia community that's doing this. I really am. And I don't know. I just don't believe it.
It's a tricky one, right? There's two lanes here. There's the Rich Rodriguez lane, the booster lane, and then there's the other lane of support. And there is a wall between those two. I've been in that
other lane since I'm open.
Huh?
I've been in that other lane since I'm open.
I know, and there's a good at least 40% of you that are in that other lane. And that is why, when I opened the show, I said, just because Antti Koltonicki is no longer a candidate, there's going to be somebody else filling his lane that is going to be in contention with Rich Rodriguez. But I also said in this show, Larry, that I believe from what we are being told that there's a time clock on the Rich Rodriguez situation. If it doesn't happen by early tomorrow, it's not happening because there is no more. Everything is known. The promissory notes, the commitments, all that is in Ren. It's all in front of Ren Baker. There's nothing more that Baker needs to know. And he's got his other lane of candidates. It's time to choose. If it's not Rich Rodriguez early, by sometime tomorrow morning, then that means he's going into the other lane and he might need a little bit more time on the other lane. That is what we believe. We've been told. So, Larry, I think we're going to know. If we don't know early tomorrow morning, I think Ren is going to be making the decision in the lane that you want him to make a decision.
I understand that, but I've heard tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock there's supposed to be a announcement.
Okay,
and
now where are you hearing that? Because there's a few people in the chat room has mentioned that.
It was on a bunch of the West Virginia podcasts are saying it.
Okay. Well, then, again, that means that it's still, if that happens, that means Rich Rodriguez, the candidacy is still alive, right? So I would suggest if the press conference is Thursday morning, then I think the Rich Rodriguez candidacy is dead. So I have not, if anybody has any we got good news here from Nebraska. We got good news from Nebraska. Hold on, everybody. If anybody has any post on X or any message boards or whatever talking about a possible press conference tomorrow, any information, please send it to my DM on X. I would appreciate it. Go ahead, Larry.
Yeah, I just was reading that thing from too. That makes me happy. In a way, said Russ Rodriguez wasn't on the plane. The search committee's coming back.
Well, okay.
I don't know, but I just don't want to go through that again. I mean, he went after West Virginia, both fingers up in the air. I mean, he screwed us out of a national championship, and then there's nobody in this world ever convinced me different. I think he did it either on purpose or just because he, not so much on purpose, but because he was so much concentrating on the Michigan job that he just didn't care. And I think the biggest thing about that was he couldn't have got the Michigan job if they won that game, because we was going to play for the national championship and Michigan wasn't waiting. So somehow, subconsciously or consciously, I swear to this day, he blew that game.
Well, maybe subconsciously, because I've watched that game. It's been a while, but I've watched that. You can watch that game on YouTube. And Rich Rodriguez was very upset, so upset in parts of that game. So I don't think it was intentional.
I understand what he was doing, but
yeah.
I'm telling you, the players even talked about we didn't run. Do you see how many receivers were wide open in the center of that game all game long? And Rich was running the ball. He never let White throw at all in that game. And they had a 9-man box. And I'm telling you, there was people open down that field. If you looked at I won't say every play, but I bet you 1 out of every 3 or 4 plays, a West Virginia guy was running wide open down there. And he was running the ball right up the middle.
Yeah.
It was just so stupid. I mean, he was coaching better than that the whole year.
Yeah.
He would have, they didn't run plays that they normally run and I watch every game. I'm a homer, man. I live and die blue and gold. I have cried over that game for a week. I mean, I was so sick I didn't even hardly get out of bed. And it's crazy.
No.
Yeah, I know I'm running on, but
no. I completely respect you, man. I love your calls. I love your opinions. I love you opening up your heart again, even though it hurts to talk about the 13-9 game. I appreciate it. This is what this channel's for. It's for calls like this. It's for calls like this, and I get it. There's a lot of Mountaineer fans that don't want Rich Rod. There's the other side that wants him. He's going to be polarizing if Ren Baker gets him. I think one positive aspect of a Rich Rod coming as the head coach is the money's going to flow. So if Ren Baker doesn't go with Rich Rod, whoever he goes with, the money's got to flow. I mean, so it's got to be somebody that has some support of the Rich Rodriguez lane. It can't be completely no support of the Rich Rodriguez lane, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, and that's what I'm really afraid of. I'm afraid that any coach they hire, if it's not Rich Rodriguez right now, is going to be demoralized in West Virginia for a while. I think he's getting an unfair shake. I think the whole thing is, I love some of the guys that donate to West Virginia. You know, I really do. And we've got a great fan base. And I think at least close to 50% of the fan base that's over 30 years old remembers that.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I know it just felt like we got, well, I mean, there was death threats and everything to his family. It was that bad. Everybody in the world knew that he threw that game. It was just not, there was a lot of it that went untold on that story.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of baggage to come along with that. NCAA double sanctions. He was accused of getting pregnant, a girl at West Virginia University, one of the students. There was a lot of stuff that went on in the background that never got really published. And that was where it really hurt, you know. And then for him to throw his middle finger up at us, it was bad. It was just the last straw, and I don't think I ever want to see him again.
Yeah.
But thank you for letting me vent, because that's what I just did. I vented.
You got it. I appreciate the phone call, Larry. Please call again, sir.
I will, and thank you, sir.
You got it. All right. Beautiful.
You have lots of luck in your bowl game against the Cats.
What was that?
And I'll be pulling for you.
Okay. I tell you what. You pull for me, my Gophers against the evil Virginia Tech Hokies, and I will pull for West Virginia over the evil Memphis Tigers. How about that?
Thank you,
All right,
sir.
Deal. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Larry, great call, Larry. Beautiful. Absolute. Jay McClanahan says, bring Rich Rod home. Look, there's two sides of this. I had to call Memphis Evil, Jamie. I had to call for Larry. He's pulling for my Golden Gophers. There is some good news. Dylan Raiola, Nebraska Cornhuskers. Dylan Raiola says he's all in on Nebraska. Those rumors, those pesky rumors that Dylan Raiola is going to go in the portal, not true. So Dylan Raiola is staying at Nebraska. And speaking of Minnesota Golden Gophers propaganda, well, here we go. Hold on. I got something here. Chris Chris Hummer, National College Football Transfer Portal for 247 Sports. Stony Brook defense alignment. Rashawn Lawrence has set a visit to Minnesota on December 13th. His agents told 247 Sports he had 42 tackles, 8 sacks. 8 sacks with an 86.8 grade from PFF. Holy smokes. Rashawn Lawrence, don't go anywhere else. You don't have to take a visit anywhere else. It's Minnesota. You don't have to go anywhere else in December 14th, December 12th. Just one visit. All you need is one visit. Yeah, I like that type. Sounded like a guy who wears his heart on his sleeve. Thank you, Larry, from West Virginia Mountaineers AAR. Larry has a lot of support. Okay, we've been on the air for 2 hours and 10 minutes. We're gonna close it up for tonight. Again, make sure you subscribe. Have your notifications on because we can come on live at any time if there's breaking news. If there's breaking news about Rich Rod or Belichick or whoever, we might have to come on live again tonight. So subscribe, have your notifications open. I want to thank Helmer Hennison, John Till, Ricky Tungate, and Ryan Willie for your donations, for your support tonight. I do appreciate it. I appreciate the wonderful comments in the chat room. And for the phone calls, again, were absolutely spectacular. Thank you all for joining us, guys and gals in the chat room. Until next time, from all of us at College Football's Peek Around the Corner, to all of you, please, you all take great care of each other. Thank you so very much.